welcome to the No Spin News, Thursday, September 18th, 2025. Stand up for your country. Confronting Evil, #1, breaks #1 on the New York Times list. 20th time. You never get used to that. You always sweat it out. I had Charlie Sheen smoking crack. I had Elizabeth Gilbert with Oprah. I had the Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett has a book out. A lot of competition. But you came through again. 20 New York Times #1 nonfiction bestsellers is a world record. It will never be broken. Not in this day and age. So I'm very happy because it's a really good book. But I'm also very grateful because I couldn't do this without you guys. I mean, obviously you buy the books. And, to continue to support me 25 years in radio, television, and in literary, I mean, I think that's a world record. So I am very grateful that the book is a success. I hope you check it out. Again, it's a very important book. Now, the Talking Points Memo this evening is about the dismissal of Jimmy Kimmel. I knew this was coming. I'm going to play you a soundbite in a couple of minutes where I mentioned it in July because the late night comedians, particularly Colbert and Kimmel, got sucked into a swamp of hate Trump. Hating Trump isn't funny. It's not entertaining. You can't make a song about it. There's nothing other than vitriolic politics involved with hating Trump. Nothing. So if you are on an entertainment program like the late nights, and all you're doing is hating on the president and then hating the people who support the president, 77 million of them, you're not on the right road. You're not on the road to success. You don't have to pander, but you don't have to be obsessed. And Jimmy Kimmel became obsessed with Donald Trump. Donald Trump destroyed Jimmy Kimmel's career. He may resurrect somewhere else, but to lose that perch, to lose that job is a big one. Now, it all happened because Kimmel said something tremendously inappropriate on Monday night. Nation is still very raw over the murder of Charlie Kirk, and here's what Kimmel said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Okay, the assassin of Charlie Kirk had nothing to do with MAGA. Okay, and so to say that that is in play was just an untruth. All right. Now, why did he do it? The guy's got 10 writers, he's got producers, and nobody said to him, hey, Jim, this might be inappropriate. And the reason maybe they did, I don't know, but he didn't listen. And he didn't listen because he's consumed with partisan politics. Jimmy Kimmel has not put on a conservative pundit or voice the whole year. He's like Colbert. The only voice that wasn't liberal on Colbert's show this entire year was Liz Cheney, who hates Trump. Same thing with The View. We went over that yesterday. None. It's a total blackout of traditional conservative voices on ABC, NBC, CBS. Total blackout. That is the story. That's Putin stuff. That's China stuff, totalitarian stuff. You cannot be heard if you don't toe the liberal line. Now, I talked about this in July, okay? And here's what I said. Go. Now, I think this is a bigger story than Stephen Colbert. And I predicted, as you know, that Colbert would go. And there are going to be some people on The View that are going to go. And Kimmel, possible. Now, nothing has happened on The View, but I suspect it will. So what really happened? So I got a call from a very powerful television executive yesterday afternoon after we taped this program. And he said there's a revolt among the station groups. That means that ABC owns some of the affiliates, but the others are owned by other corporations, like Nexstar, like Sinclair. They own the stations outright, and they buy ABC's product. A number of them, led by Nexstar, said to ABC in Burbank, California, Bob Iger, CEO, we're not taking Kimmel anymore. The outrage over what he'd said on Monday and all of the other censorship that he does, hate Trump stuff that he does, we're not taking it anymore. Disney panicked, okay? Absolute panic. And had to get out in front of it because they were going to lose 30, 40 affiliates who were going to fire Kimmel themselves. So Disney says, we'll fire him too. That's corporate America. That's what corporate America does, always folds, always, 100% of the time. And Kimmel then, by all accounts, was surprised. I don't know why he would be surprised. I mean, come on. You can't say on your program that MAGA people are somewhat responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's defamatory. It's a lie. It's not even close to being funny. What the deuce are you doing? There is a responsibility. In addition, the government licenses ABC, CBS, and NBC. Let me explain this. When television was first invented in the late 1940s, the airwaves were public. And the three networks said, well, we have television, we want to broadcast over the airwaves. The government said, okay, but you have to get a license and you have to live up to some standards. You can't say the F word. You can't have naked people running around. So we'll give you the license, but you got to obey the rules because it's free. The airwaves are owned by the people, the American people. It's free. So the networks have to comply with the federal government. Not cable, because you pay for cable. Not social media, because you pay for social media. We don't have to comply with anything. We can get in trouble, we can hold it to court, but no government regulates. But they do regulate the networks. So the FCC now, controlled by the Trump administration, is horrified by the total blackout of any conservative voice. It's horrifying, and they hate Trump stuff. So the head of the FCC is Brendan Carr. Here's what he said.
There's calls for Kimmel to be fired. I think, you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. And again, we may ultimately be called to be a judge on that.
And that message got across to Disney, okay? And Disney also already had to pay President Trump $16 million because George Stephanopoulos, one of their correspondents, called Trump a rapist. And that's not true. So Disney could see that its whole franchise was going down the drain. The government's coming after them. So Kimmel was the human sacrifice. He got thrown overboard. But there's plenty of reason. On September 2nd, Kimmel was unrelenting. He wouldn't stop. It was every night. I'll just give you one example. Roll September 2nd.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump will never die. Forget it. He's like Dracula. He's going to keep sucking the life out of us forever. There will be no more trans in Transylvania when he is done.
Okay, and that's harmless, but it was every single night competing with Colbert, who can bash Trump the most. And remember, there was no bashing of Biden for 4 years. So this was rank partisanship. Now, it wasn't always so. So I was on the Kimmel program 5 times. I got along very well with him. And he was very nice to me and my staff. We'd go in, his studio is in West Hollywood. We'd have some snacks. He'd come in, a few laughs, give me a sweatshirt, whatever it may be. Saw him at the Emmys, very cordial. I had a very, very good relationship with the man. This was before the rise of Donald Trump. And I'll just give you one taste of it. So on February 10th, 2015, Killing Patton was out, and I was promoting it on Kimmel. Roll it.
One of the things that I have to say knocked me out, and I went crazy telling everyone within earshot, is that Hitler had a condition, I don't know if it's a disease or a condition, called meteorism.
Right.
And what is that?
Flatulence.
Yes, Hitler.
Hitler.
As if we didn't have enough reasons to dislike this guy, was constantly letting gas.
Well, he had every condition in the world. Evil feeds upon itself. And, you know, he was such an evil person that he just, like, consumed from within. But can you imagine in the bunker with Adolf? Can you imagine how that was? Because there were no windows to open. You know, you go out, you get a fresh air, you get a bullet in the head. So it's either Hitler or the bullet.
Maybe that's why he grew the mustache as, like, a filter, kind of self-defense of some kind.
I never thought of that, but that's possible.
All right, so it was the normal interaction. And let me make one more point. I'm not happy Jimmy Kimmel got fired. And I know a lot of people are, including the president. We'll play you his soundbite in a moment. I was very impressed with Mr. Kimmel because his young son had a very serious medical condition. Kimmel doesn't make a big deal out of it, but Kimmel was a very heroic parent. And I weigh things like that. So I'm not happy about what has happened to him, but I'm confused. I really am. And I got a message to Kimmel, I would say about a year ago, through Adam Carolla, who's friend. He said, look, Jim, why don't you give me a call? Because this isn't going in the right direction for you and your family. Of course, he didn't call. But I would have told him. I said, look, you're getting consumed by hatred. And every human being who's consumed by hatred goes down. Everyone. And that's what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. And that's the memo. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked on your home title? If your answer is never, then this is for you. Scammers are stealing titles, and your equity is a target. Criminals forge your signature. Just like that, your home title can be transferred out of your name. That's why I partnered up with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Please use my promo code BILL at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report. Plus, you will get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code BILL. Okay, let's bring in our pal Bernie Goldberg. Is a big media guy, as everybody knows. Comes up from North Carolina, BernardGoldberg.com, where Bernie has analysis every day. I read it. Okay, I don't listen to Bernie, of course I don't, but I actually read it because it's entertaining. And once in a while, I make some good points. Now, I'm going to play you a soundbite, Goldberg, but I want to set it up. So after Kimmel's firing was announced, CNN went wild. I didn't monitor MSNBC, but they couldn't have gone more wild than CNN. Freedom of speech, under assault, under assault, under assault. And what CNN does every day, not just in this story, is they book people who are going to say what CNN wants them to say. They don't book O'Reilly, they don't book Goldberg, they don't book any dissent, there's no discussion, there's no debate. So they bring in a guy named Jamie Raskin, one of the biggest Trump haters in the country, all right, a congressman from Maryland, and Caitlin Collins, their anchor, who's gone very far left in the last year or so. All right, she baits Raskin the way they always do every night. Roll it.
Well, it's absolute corruption of government, and it's absolute violation of the free speech rights of the people and of the media. And this is really taking us back to the days of King George, where it was a crime to insult the president. They didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel said about Donald Trump.
Okay, so that's ridiculous because, as I pointed out, conservative traditional pundits or politicians can't get on any of the three networks. So this is, I think that might be a danger of freedom of speech. What do you think, Goldberg? Where am I going wrong here?
Well, I'm shocked, Bill. Actually, you made sense today. Let me start out, and congratulations on the book, by the way. That's a very big deal.
Thank
Congrats
you.
on that.
Thank you.
Let me start out with the simple stuff. Despite what people on CNN were saying almost all night yesterday, Jimmy Kimmel doesn't have any First Amendment right, any free speech right to say what he wants. Only the government can tell you, has an obligation not to tell you what to say or not to say. ABC, Disney could have fired Jimmy Kimmel because they didn't like the color of his tie, or because they didn't like what he said about the quote unquote MAGA gang. So that's fine. And if that's all there was to the story, he said it, he's paying a price. That's the way it goes. But I disagree with you slightly, Bill, or at least I want to open the door to another idea here. The government can't use coercion to do the job. Well, let me put it this way. The government can't coerce ABC, Disney to do the government's job. And if Brendan Carr says, you know, well, we could do this the easy way or the hard way, or you could either fire Kimmel or you're going to have trouble with the FCC. That's a kind of coercion that tiptoes into First Amendment issues, I think. It's a gray area, but I think it could be a First Amendment issue when the government uses coercion to get a private company to do what it can't do. Let me say one other thing, if I might, Bill. Conservatives, Trump people who like Donald Trump should not be celebrating this, because sooner or later there's going to be a Democratic president, and maybe a progressive Democratic president, maybe somebody like AOC. And don't say AOC will never be president. It's impossible. It's not impossible. And we don't want that person saying, I don't like what they're saying about me. I don't like what they're saying about me on this media outlet or that media outlet, and I'm going to shut it down because I don't like any criticism. We conservatives would yell bloody murder about that, and rightly so. So before we get too happy about Jimmy Kimmel's demise, think about that.
All right, but it's already happened. As I pointed out, it's already happened. For almost 10 years since Trump got into the political marketplace, the networks have shut down all conservative and traditional opinion. So it's already happened. So you don't need AOC to do it. The networks did it by themselves for whatever agenda reason they wanted. So that's where Carr should have gone. So the mistake that Carr made, and the president himself, was zeroing in on Colbert and Kimmel. That they're part of the problem. But the big problem is the censorship exclusion that the corporations absolutely imposed.
That you're absolutely right in what you said factually, but private companies are allowed to be unfair. Private companies are
not if you're licensed by the FCC. You can't run a propaganda channel in this country. You can't. You'll lose your license. They looked the other way under Biden, under Obama, because they were cheering on the networks, Obama and Biden. But you cannot do it because there's a fairness doctrine, Goldberg, and you know it. You worked for CBS for like 85 years, since Rutherford B. Hayes. You know what the fairness doctrine was. And you know who did this to the fairness doctrine? Dan Rather. Cronkite actually obeyed it. Rather gave it the middle finger.
I want to be very clear about this because I don't want any of the people listening to us thinking I'm defending the exclusion of any opinion that doesn't jibe with the opinion that they want. Because you're absolutely right. They're unfair that way. But I would argue, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I know a little about this stuff, but I want to be clear that while it's wrong, it may be legal. It's wrong to keep people on. It's wrong to say we don't want conservative voices because we don't like conservative voices. It's wrong when they do it in news, and it's wrong when they do it in entertainment. But it may not be illegal. That's my point, Bill.
I'd like to see it, the Supreme Court hear it, because it is such a threat to the nation. This is exactly what Beijing and Moscow are doing right this second. You cannot have any dissent. And that's what the networks imposed. And most people didn't even understand it, or don't even understand it now. I mean, if I want to go on Good Morning America, where I was plenty of times, they will not book me. Neither will the Today Show. Neither will Jane Pauley at Sunday Morning CBS. Now, I cracked through, I don't know whether you noticed this or not, with Major Garrett at CBS this week. And I was on CBS for the first time in 10 years because they sold to Skydance. And Skydance apparently doesn't want the exclusionary censorship of non-liberal voices. So there's a glimmer of hope.
Bill, I want to be very clear that when I say a progressive president would shut down, I know progressives in real life. They would shut down conservative speech in a second.
Sure.
And you're saying they've already done it. I get it. I get it. But you don't want to cheer the demise of Jimmy Kimmel because the other side will do it if they could and make it even worse than it is now. They would find a way.
I got it.
Shut down.
Last question. I think there's a rebellion now, a television rebellion, because the 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump are walking away from the networks. And the networks, you know, and I know, the ratings are abysmal. All right, they're horrible across the board. It's the last days of Pompeii over there. And cable is going to follow them right over the cliff. All right, because
and Bill, that's why and you're absolutely right. And that's why I would prefer Brendan Carr stay the hell out of this and let the marketplace make the decision. Let people say, you know, I heard Jimmy Kimmel say something the other night that I found offensive. I'm not tuning into that crap anymore. Let the marketplace, rather than the FCC, instead of the FCC using its clout, let the American people and capitalism and the marketplace use its clout to take care of stuff like this.
Well, I think it's happened simultaneously now, that's for sure. All right, BernardGoldberg.com. So you do me a personal favor if you visited Goldberg there. It's a very good website. Appreciate it, Bernie. We'll talk again soon. Thank you. Cold and flu season coming on up. We all know it. And it really is nothing to take lightly. So when people start getting sick all across the country, medications disappear. Everybody wants it at the same time. So it's very, very smart to have a pharmacy you can count on, like All Family Pharmacy. Right now, they're helping Americans get ahead of the curve with 10% off antibiotics, antivirals, other essentials. You know how important it is to have the right meds when you get sick, particularly when your kids get sick. You don't want to be going into the doctor's office, spending all the time. You want to have them at your home. So if you have a few months' supply, you don't have to worry. And that's what we're doing here. If you believe in medical freedom, okay, and taking care of your family, as I do, this is the pharmacy for you. Please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. If you are 64 years old or older, you gotta hear this. Millions of seniors are on the wrong Medicare plan, and they don't even know it. Don't know it. In fact, the Department of Justice recently sued 3 major Medicare brokers for allegedly claiming to be unbiased while secretly steering seniors toward plans with the biggest kickbacks. Whoa. That's why I am partnering up with Chapter. Chapter doesn't work for the government or big insurance. Works for you. They are the only advisors that compare every Medicare plan nationwide to find what's best for you and your family. They'll even help if you're hit with wrongful medical bills, and that is real advocacy. They have saved the average senior in America $1,100 this year alone. $1,100. Best part, their service is free. You can review your options in under 20 minutes with Chapter. You are in control. So please give them a call. 321-319-1576. Or click the link in the description below. Okay, final thought of the day. In order to get the book in front of people's attention in the USA, which is not easy, it's called marketing, you got to do a lot of media. And it's easy for people like Charlie Sheen and the movie stars, Matthew McConaughey, that guy, it's easy. But for a guy like me, who's controversial, it's a little bit more difficult. So we really are grateful to all the media that allows us to talk about confronting evil. And it's fun. Roll the tape.
Now, Charlie Kirk was an interesting fellow because at a very young age, he was mature enough to understand that he wanted to take a stand in favor of traditional America and Judeo-Christian philosophy. He decided that he wanted to do that. When I was 31 or whatever, I was lucky I wasn't in the penitentiary, and I believe you were in the penitentiary. Okay? So he was light years ahead of us.
Yes,
and he put it into motion. All right, now, most good people, even if you disagree with what Mr. Kirk says on occasion, you admire that.
Pritzker, for example, the governor of Illinois, 20 years, there have been mass murders going on the south side of Chicago. 20 years. 80% of the people murdered are African Americans. Give me one thing that Pritzker, the governor, has done to stop that.
Nothing.
No one can.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
But wait. So I'm talking to Mark Ruffalo. I'm talking to Emma Stone now.
Yes, Ruffalo. I'm talking to. But yes, or something
whatever
like
it is, Ruffalo. Brilliant actor, by the way.
Yes.
But total progressive loon.
Right.
I'm talking to you. This is who I'm talking to. So you have a fact. 20 years, they slaughter African Americans, gunned down in the street. The governor does nothing. He's offered a blanket of protection by President Trump to lessen the murders and the death. He rejects it. And he has nothing to put in its place. And he calls Trump a fascist. He calls Trump names evil, whatever it may be. And Trump is offering to stop most of the murders in Chicago. Does that make any sense to anybody? Mark, Emma, hello?
You wrote something in your newsletter I thought was just noting. It says, your humble correspondent is walking a tightrope between journalism and policy. I have no choice. My career span is now more than 50 years. I know a lot. It's my responsibility to help my country. I guess, is that something that sort of evolved over time, or did you just wake up one day like, look, I cannot just be a journalist. I have to engage and try to help make a difference? No,
it's life. Life presents you with opportunities. And I never in a million years thought I would be in, I'm about as far away from a diplomat as you could possibly get, okay? I never thought I would be involved at this level with very important matters for the United States of America. But if you look at my resume and you look at what I've done, it makes sense. My career has been stunning to me. Never in a million years could anybody ever predicted it. And it capped off this week with the 20th #1 on the New York Times list, Confronting Evil. And the reason the New York Times list is so important is because it's pretty much the only newspaper that chronicles sales now. The others don't do it. They don't, I don't know why. I guess people don't read that much anymore, but the Times is the big list. And I think we're going to get Confronting Evil into a movie. We've already sold it to a production company, and I think that's going to happen as well. All good things for us. We're on it. I will have a new Sunday column. We will see you again on Monday. Thank you for watching the No Spin News. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.